We are live.
Gosh golly gee willikers.
Gosh golly gee willikers. Welcome everyone to Blacksburg on the Rocks.
We are live.
Yeah. What's up, Evan?
Right.
It's good to see you, brother.
Great to see you guys. What's happening?
Hughes. Well,
Down in some drinks. It was weird having a bye week. It messed my entire schedule up.
I don't know what you're talking about. I am drinking nothing but water.
And I have a Diet Coke here. I drink way too many of these during the day, and I hope my family's not watching because I've been told I need to chill out on the Diet Cokes, more water. But no, good to see you guys. And let me start with congratulating Dr. Lord Jeremy Counts on the rebranding of
thank you.
Very excited for you guys, and that's awesome. Excited for the whole fam.
Thanks, man. I was sick to death of everyone getting credit for everything I did. So I was like, you know what? We're going to go with a less generic name.
Well, let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, sports enthusiasts and aficionados and fellow broadcast lovers, today is a wonderful day for us because I have the extraordinary ability and honor to introduce you all to Evan Hughes, the exceptional play-by-play broadcaster with precision, passion, professionalism. Evan brings sports to life, ladies and gentlemen. His remarkable ability to paint a vivid picture with words creates an immersive experience for the listeners out there. His meticulous preparation, deep knowledge, and instinctive timing makes every game, every moment, every call unforgettable. From the opening whistle to the final buzzer, ladies and gentlemen, Evan's energy, his enthusiasm, it captivates audiences. His voice becomes synonymous with excitement, tension, and triumph for the Hokies. Evan's versatility shines across various sports platforms. He's adept to different formats, from high-stakes championship games to local matchups. Now, what sets Evan apart, you may be asking? His mastery of detail, his storytelling prowess, his emotional resonance with the fans, his improvisational genius, the authenticity and humility with which he broadcasts the game. Evan Hughes, ladies and gentlemen, is more than just a broadcaster. He is an artist, nay, a conductor, a storyteller. His work transcends sports. It is a shared human experience. To Evan, I offer a very heartfelt, a very loving, a very thankful welcome to our show. Ladies and gentlemen, sportscaster extraordinaire, the Evan K. Hughes.
Wow, what an introduction.
Maybe the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me. Paul, that was beautiful and way too kind.
It's all true. Every word I wrote is true.
You have a way with words.
It's true. Evan, I mean, you're fantastic. I'm rooting for you constantly. Like, you're an awesome guy. You have such a bright future. Like, I sit around sometimes and I tell people, I just hope we can keep Evan Hughes at Virginia Tech.
I know.
It's awfully kind of you. You know the affinity and the love that I have for the both of you, and I really appreciate that. You know, I love being a Hokie. You know, I love being here at Virginia Tech. I love my job. I'm lucky that I get to do what I do. So, thank you both for having me on the show. I love the background that we have going on here. By the way,
yes. You said we had to keep it PG, so we went with the super soft PG episode. I thought about doing like the full hats and the boa like they did on Letterkenny.
Yeah.
I love I don't ever curse when I'm on air. I appreciate it. I just trying to keep it PG.
Yeah, me either.
I will say, and for those of you that watch or listen to The Drive on a regular basis, there was an episode, it might have been over a year ago now, where I got it in my craw that I was going to get Evan to say something negative or say something even moderately inappropriate. Like at one point I was like, Evan, just say crap. Evan, please, just humor me. And he would not do it. You can't ever get him to say a bad thing about anybody. He's genuinely just one of the most awesome people I have ever met in my life. And Frank Merritt, you, sir, are a duty head.
Oh, let's go through them. Yes, congrats. Why, thank yous. Oh, Marnie says, it always makes my evening. Thank you, Marnie, for that terrible joke that I can't curse you for because it's the PG episode. Paul wrote that at Rocky Mount Pizza. Oh, my God, the Pizza Hut.
I have not had an opportunity to go back to the Rocky Mount Pizza Hut in many, many weeks. I am on Bridget's schedule with that. Plus, I'm on Weight Watchers, so the Rocky Mount Pizza Hut's a bad idea.
Let me say this. I was lucky enough to have lunch with Paul today. He looks great. He is in great shape right now.
Oh, yeah.
My goal is to look like Evan Hughes, because Evan Hughes has dropped a bunch of weight, too. Can I add, you're like 40 plus down, aren't you?
I'm down 70 actually.
Wow,
not down 70. I lost 30, and it was just good old fashioned amphetamines.
Well, let me say this
for you, Evan.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, any weight, and first of all, one thing I've learned through all this, I mean, any amount of weight loss is a big deal. So, shout out to you both. It's really hard to do. It takes an incredible amount of discipline. I've done it the old-fashioned way. Absolutely zero of that pills or anything like that. It has, when you go from eating, to be quite honest with you guys, 4,000 calories a day and eating whatever you want, whenever you want, and, eating like crap every day, if I'm being totally honest with you, and not exercising, you get, okay. I didn't mean to. No.
Oh my God, Jeremy.
It's tough. It gets away from you. Like when I opened the pharmacy, I ran marathons. That's what I did. But it's not like that hunger went away. So I still ate like I was running all the time. Well, and it just stacked.
It's honestly, it was so easy for me early on to just, when you're eating, really clean and you're exercising, and I did intermittent fasting. I did keto. Anyways, enough about that. I just decided I wanted to make a change, and awesome. I'm proud of Paul. I'm proud of you, Jeremy. I mean, I'm proud of everyone. Seriously, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but also, one of the most rewarding things. So, shout out to everybody who's trying that.
So yeah. Bridget and I for Christmas every year now, we just buy a trip, and we are going on a cruise the end of February. And so I've made an executive decision that I need to lose 30 pounds between now and the end of February. So going to the gym 4 times a week. I'm back on Weight Watchers to make sure that I'm accountable for what I eat on a daily basis, and just trying to do it, like Evan said, the right way, so that, because I can be the old guy or I can be the fat guy, but I can't be the fat old guy on the cruise. And since I have no control over my age, I got to lose weight. So that's kind of where I'm at with this.
Yes. Today, it's no longer the geezer rant. It's the Paul's elderly gentleman rant. We're being very nice today in honor of Evan Hughes. Evan Hughes, one of the only human beings on this planet that will make me not curse for a little while.
I know.
I think this may be a record going an hour without cursing for me.
Jeremy, I appreciate you. And I love that polo you got on, by the way. I think that's Southwest Virginia. I love their work, and that is a great. I mean, anyways, the lunch pail, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, it's a Southwest Virginia shop. I just saw it come up. I got me and Emily one.
Evan, if you were on a boat and you got shipwrecked, and you could either have a volleyball with a handprint on it as a friend, or Tim Thomas, what would you rather have on the island with you?
Oh, I don't even understand. I don't understand the first part of that.
Would you rather have Wilson? Did you ever watch Castaway?
I'm terrible with movies. I know the premise of it, but I've not seen the movie.
So the volleyball that he has with the handprint. Yeah. That's
I actually don't. I don't know.
All right. Well, would you rather have a volleyball or Tim Thomas on the island?
First of all, let me get to that. Of course, it'd be Tim Thomas. First of all, for a lot of reasons. Number one, I hope Timmy T's watching right now. Number one, you guys said a lot of nice things about me. I think you could triple that and say that about Tim Thomas. You talk about a heart of gold, genuinely one of the nicest human beings on this planet. People don't know, my freshman year, I actually wrote for the Tech Lunch Pail, and Tim was one of the first that gave me an opportunity at Virginia Tech. And so I'm really grateful to Tim. I love the work that he does. But number two, Tim has done a lot of different things in his life. I mean, think about this. He's a double engineer major.
Yeah, he's an engineer. Give me him on the island any day.
And number
any
two,
day, give me Tim.
Not only is he a double engineer, now he does insurance. He has started Tech Lunch Pail from literally just an idea into something that's been around for 8 years now. He has the ability to do everything. So I am so in awe of his ability to, when he puts his mind to something, he does it. He's willing to try different things. Something that was preached to us in school, especially in broadcasting, is to be a toolbox and have a lot of different things in your toolbox that can help you in your career. I think the same could be said for Tim. Like, he can do anything. So I am a huge Tim Thomas fan.
You just called Tim a toolbox?
Yes, he did.
I'm saying that he has a lot of different things in his toolbox. Anyway, shout out. I know all two, you can say, honestly, Tim Thomas, what a remarkable human being that we're both lucky to know.
I loved him. He's just so easy to jostle.
He is. Yes.
Yeah, it gives us jollies to jostle Tim.
Yes,
but
it really does.
Tim is an admirable man.
It's all meant in good, loving fun. It is all meant in good, loving fun. So, Evan, let's talk a little bit, if we could, about the women's basketball program. There's no football to talk about. Hokies were on a bye last week.
Yeah.
So was Michigan, so we can't really talk about that. Apparently, so was Michigan State. I believe they got the crap kicked out of them also. So we'll skip over all the football stuff. And I want to ask you about the women's basketball program. Now, obviously, we have a new coach, a change at the top. I guess let's start there. What can you tell us about the new head coach of the Virginia Tech women's team?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is that you ever meet somebody and you feel like pretty quickly you've known them for a long time. Like, you just get that feeling that that is how I feel about Coach Duffy. The first week that she was here, I felt like I knew her within like the first two interactions of her, and starting with her, I think Tech fans should know that she's a remarkable person, and that Virginia Tech hit a home run with her, and just her values, her beliefs, her want to. I think something that struck me right away about Coach, if you look at her history, playing for Muffet McGraw at Notre Dame, a storied program where she won a lot. Everywhere she's gone, she has won. And it was very clear right away that when she got here, she said, hey, we are going to continue to win. We are going to take where this program has been and continue that. And her ability, and I think we'll talk about it, Paul, whether it's the recruiting trail and the great job she's done in the class of 2026 going up against some really great programs, to the ability to keep some really good talent on this roster that was here from last year, make some additions. That was impressive right away. And then I don't think we're talking enough about the staff that she's hired. You've got two former ACC head coaches on her staff. I mean, find me another staff around the country that has that level of expertise. Jen Hoover's the all-time winningest coach in the history of Wake Forest women's basketball. Tora Coleman was fantastic at Clemson, and then she was an assistant at North Carolina the last couple of years. I mean, and then, Sharnae Zoll-Norman, her other assistant, get this, is the all-time leader in assists in the history of the ACC, and she played at Virginia. So I know, she played at the school, our rival, but she brought her to Virginia Tech. And I can go on and on. I mean, they've got Kathleen Doyle, who was the 2020 Big Ten Player of the Year on staff, who, it was the point guard for Iowa before Caitlin Clark and was, again, a Big Ten Player of the Year. So I can go on and on. I'm impressed with her staff. And the last thing I will tell you all, her practices are so fun to be at. They are, like, energy is a word that is used a lot, but the practices are so upbeat. There's so much yelling. There's so much good yelling. Screaming, high energy, high-fiving, up-tempo. And I think that is going to match the way they play this year. You're going to see a team that is very aggressive on the defensive end, that's going to really guard you and make you earn everything. And when you make a mistake, they are going to turn defense into offense. So expect that energy, expect that intensity. The way I've seen them practicing right now, I think is the kind of team you're going to see them be when they take the floor here in a couple of weeks.
So you think that we're going to come out and we're going to be aggressive in ACC play, because that is one thing about the SEC that I've always noticed is, like, you go over the SEC and they are physical, and ACC teams struggle with that. So I really feel like if we come out and we are physical and we are tough, it will give us an advantage.
No doubt. I think like you're going to see, like, they have. One thing the team really stresses, Jeremy, is from that standpoint is like taking charges. Like they track every practice, and they have it on a in the locker room. They've got who's taken the most charges in practice. Like all of those things, the little things that add up to being tough and what that looks like. I think you're going to really see that translate. So I'm excited. Like I think that. And let's face it, the last couple of years, Virginia Tech's been really good defensively, right? But it's gonna look differently. You're gonna see diving on the ball diving on the floor for loose balls. You're gonna see them step in front of passing lanes, and I think you're gonna see them be at times really quick offensively. They want to go quick. They want to get you in transition. And the one thing too about Coach Duffy teams, Jeremy, they have shot the three ball really well at Marquette. And I think you're going to see that be a common theme this year. You look at, first of all, Matilda Eck, who shot 40% from distance last year in the ACC. She shot over 40% in 2 years at Michigan State. So that's two different Power Four conferences. I knew you were going to say something there.
Never heard of them.
Two different Power Four conferences. She shot over 40%. And there's Igor, one of the cutest puppies right now on Paul's lap. I'm really excited for this when he was going to make an appearance. But the other thing, Jeremy, you've got Matilda Eck, who, by the way, people forget, she scored 21 points against Marshall in the NCAA tournament and then 19 against Baylor. She really stepped up down the stretch last year. So she can shoot the three-point ball well. You got Karis Baker, who's an electric three-point shooter. You bring in Lonnie White, who can shoot the three ball. I think you're going to see all five positions on the floor, for the most part, be able to step out, shoot the three, and you're going to see an emphasis on the mid-range game. Everyone says the mid-range game is kind of a lost art in basketball. I think you're going to see an emphasis on that offensively from Virginia Tech, especially the guard play.
So let me ask this, Evan, because obviously we go from Liz Kitley, right, who is an unbelievable. Her jersey's going to get retired here at some point during the season. We're going to talk about that. To two freshman bigs, Hazelton and White. Are we going to see a different style in the paint now with the two freshmen, or is Coach Duffy just going to kind of toss these young ladies into the deep end and say, okay, you got to swim?
Well, first of all, I think everyone on this roster is going to play. I think it's a really talented roster. I think from the center position, number one, you're going to see Rose Mishaw go from being the 4 to the 5, and that was what
she played before, right?
I'm sorry?
That was what she played before she came to Virginia Tech.
At Minnesota, she actually played. Yeah, she played the 5 at Minnesota.
Okay.
And she had a really good 2022-23 season. She averaged like 14 and 9 and was an all Big Ten performer. Last year, she came in, played the 4, and I think I tell you what, guys, she has looked awesome in practice. I have been so impressed with Rose, and I think that even though she's about 6'4", I think she plays like a 5. She boxes out with intensity. She is so good at stickbacks and second chance opportunities at the rim. I think you're going to see Rose Mishaw really flourish in this role. But then, Paul, to your point with Ramaya White and Maya Hazelton, two of those players that can play the 5. I think you're going to listen with Liz Kitley. What made Liz the 3-time ACC Player of the Year and one of the most special Hokies of any sports we've ever seen? I mean, her ability to do everything, to whether she was on the perimeter and part of offensive sets, to moving to the baseline, to stepping out and knocking down an 18-foot jumper. She was, a really unique style of a center. I think because she could do a little bit. I think you're going to see the post players beat back to the basket, but I also think you're going to see them have the ability to step out and knock down the jump shot. All three of them have the ability to knock down a jump shot, and I think that's important. I think if there's one thing we learned from Liz Kitley, you can't just be a player as a post player that scores in the paint. And I think those three have the ability to score in different levels for this team.
Would you rather spend a weekend in Ann Arbor or a weekend in Charlottesville?
You know, I've never been to Ann Arbor. And I listen, I think all Hokies can say this. Charlottesville, there's a lot of cool things to do there. I enjoy the breweries there and the wineries. So I would, I mean, I don't know, Paul, is Ann Arbor this great place? Like, I know you love it.
Yeah, it's legitimately a college town. Yeah.
I've actually only been, and we could talk about my mom and my ties to Michigan. I've only been to the state of Michigan, I think, like 4 times. Ironically, I just went a couple weeks ago. So there's so much of that state that I still want to explore. Maybe get to the Upper Peninsula one day and shovel some snow like Paulie V did in another lifetime.
You don't want to do that.
So what you're telling me is, see, I thought we'd have our new coach come in, and it was going to take us a couple of years to even be okay again, if that makes sense.
It doesn't feel like it.
And then we started retaining everyone, but from what I'm hearing from everyone, and you know how Blacksburg hype is, which let's bring up the Blacksburg hype vibe check. The vibe around Blacksburg is pretty good about this Virginia Tech women's team. And I can't tell if it's full on hype still or if it's, legit, but you were getting me so full of hype, I'm not sure.
Well, here's what I will say. Right, anytime you go through a coaching change, there are adjustments that are going to have to, and I think that the style of play, both are great. What we've had and what's going to happen this year, but they're different, and you're asking players to do different things. Like for instance, I think Karis Baker's had an awesome offseason. You're going to see her not only play the 3, you're going to see her play in the low post this year. She's really added more to her game. What we just talked about, the diving on the floor for loose balls, stepping in front of passing lanes, that's maybe different than what's been in the past. So that's not, as you guys know, regardless of sport, there is a transition period. And listen, this is a young team. You've got, Carly Wenzel is a redshirt sophomore still, young player. A name that every Hokie fan should know is Mackenzie Nelson, who redshirted last year. She was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Connecticut and sat behind Georgia Amore last year and had a really good redshirt year. You've got Samaya Suffren, who I think is poised for a breakout year in this system, who saw limited time last year. So I think one thing you've heard from Coach Duffy say, you've got a lot of players who are now being asked to be put in new roles this year, whether that's Matilda Eck and Rose Mishaw from a leadership standpoint, from a scoring standpoint. But I think these players, Jeremy and Paul, are excited about that opportunity to step into new roles this year and a new system.
Yeah. Well, Jay is telling me to be careful with the hype because Jay, one of the other most likable people we've ever met in our life, Jay.
Amen. Amen.
Just be careful with the hype.
Have you ever seen Jay Tucker having a bad day? Because I haven't. I mean, there's always a smile on that guy's face.
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah. Jay's always pretty happy. I have never firsthand witnessed a Jay bad day, though.
I hate the fact that today's a PG day because I could go on a why Jay Tucker's happy rant. I'll save that for a different show. Evan, I love you.
Paul, I love you. And this is pretty cool too. I mean, for so many years, I would love to talk about the drive and how we first became friends and drew in the car at some point. Absolutely. Because I've got some story. But this is pretty cool. Jeremy, it's been so cool through Paul, through Frank, through Tina to get to know you. But man, Paul, you're a treasure, man. And this is so cool to get to do another interview with you. Nels is doing an amazing job, and miss you too. You're the man.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
That's what I always tell him. Like he doesn't know how much the drive really meant to a lot of people.
Paul, I think everyone said it when you left, Paul, but like the community that you built was really powerful. The same people listening every day the same texters, the same callers, and that's what makes, to me, everything that the Drive stands for is what makes Blacksburg such a special place.
Yeah.
It is one of the best communities with some of the best people imaginable that are loyal, that are dedicated, that are passionate. And Paul, think about it. You took over I wasn't here when you took over, and not to talk about people of the past, but you're talking about a radio show that had a revolving door of people. There wasn't a lot of continuity there, and you built that over 8 years into what it was. So and to think too, and how happy just how amazing it has been for us, the Virginia Tech Sports Network, to be with ESPN Blacksburg, like the infrastructure that you built, you just don't know the ripples that you have created amongst this community, and just a lot of gratitude to you.
Yeah, Paul, he likes his ripples. He sure does. Wait,
I did. I did. I like to cause ripples. I like to make ripples. I also like to go visit Ripplemead from time to time. I don't know if you guys have ever had a chance to go to Ripplemead. It's a beautiful place right over there on the West Virginia border. So, yeah.
Nice. I have no clue what you're talking about.
Thank you for the kind words. It's a town. Really? You don't know where Ripplemead is?
I don't know.
Leave Virginia. For crying out loud, you two. Leave Virginia once in a while.
Hey, dude, a lot.
We got everything
up to Jersey to do a show.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so realistically, when we look at this program, because Jay wants us to be careful with the hype train, and I'm not going to ask you to put a number of wins on this or anything like that.
Put a number of wins on it, Evan. I will. I'll ask you. Put a number of wins on it.
What are we talking here, Evan? Is this a 20-win team, 22-win team? Is this a ACC championship contender? Are we talking another Final Four run potentially? What can this team do?
I think that this is a team that has a ton of talent, that if you look at it from the younger players, you got a lot of top 100 kids that were big-time recruits. And I think that this is a team that wants to be playing in the postseason come the end of this year. And I think with the depth of the ACC, you are going to have the opportunity to do that. When you play in the ACC, guys, I think everyone knows how good it is, but think about it from this perspective. You're going up against teams that are going to bolster your resume. You're going to help your strength of schedule. This year, women's basketball has moved to the men's system of the quadrant wins. You're going to have opportunities to get quadrant 1 wins every single game, RPI, like all of those things are going to be really impactful. So if you can win some big time, you're going to have the opportunities, right? You're going to have Stanford coming into Castle Coliseum. You're going to have Notre Dame. But guys, even the middle part of this league to the bottom are teams. I think the ACC could have 10 teams in the NCAA tournament this year. That's just outstanding. It is the deepest conference in all of women's college basketball. So to get back to what you're saying, I really believe in this group. I believe in what they're building, and I think you're going to see this team playing really meaningful basketball games into late January and February. And if you can do that, you put yourself in a position to be playing in the postseason come March.
Yeah. So you're saying that they can pretty much shine out this year, but don't expect like full-on magic like we've seen for 2 years once they get some experience under their belt.
Yeah, I think you're going to see this team, and this is going to sound cliche, but it's true. When you have a team with young players and players stepping into a new role, the team that Virginia Tech's going to be in November is not the team they're going to be in January, and the team they are in December is not going to be the team they are in February. I mean, look at previous seasons. Yeah. Go back to the Final Four year. I mean, remember Virginia Tech lost that early game to Clemson in December, and they were getting rotation things figured out. That team didn't remember that when they lost to Duke in early January in that physical game in Durham. And then all of a sudden, things clicked and they went on a 15-game winning streak. So I think you're going to see – I think the biggest thing for every team, Jeremy and Paul, in the month of November is to figure out rotations and who works well on the floor together. And I think you're going to see that process evolve over the first couple of weeks. I don't think teams are really fully set on rotation and minutes and lineups until conference play begins. So, again, I really do think you're going to see this team really evolve as the year goes along and everyone gets comfortable in their role in a new system. And I can't wait to watch it because I think the biggest thing for me, I have seen tremendous buy-in. And I think there's a ton of really great vibes around the program right now. And that starts at the top with the coaching staff, with Coach Duffy, her staff, and then the leadership aspect of Rose Mishaw, Carly Wenzel, Matilda Eck. It's been really good. And that's been fun to watch here over the last couple months.
Evan, the New York Jets pulled off a blockbuster trade today, adding Davante Adams to their roster. I know for a fact that if I ask you very nicely, you can get up and go into the closet in the room you are currently sitting in and find your Aaron Rodgers Jets jersey for me. But I want to ask you, Evan, the addition of Davante Adams, on a scale of 9 to 10, how much more does this make the Jets a playoff contender moving forward? The correct answer is 11.5, by the way. Much like Bill Roth, I will give you the answers to the test. You just have to write them down.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I wish his classes were that easy. Listen, I don't want to bore the viewers here. I will say this. You can ask my friends. You can ask my family. It has been, I have been really mad the last 24 hours. Like, the most mad I've been with the Jets. Because a lot of time with the Jets, it's like same old Jets. You get frustrated. We're not good. We're not talented. This is like,
you are. You got Tyrod.
We do.
That is true.
We do.
You got Tyrod.
And I am, by the way, so happy about that. And he came in against the Niners late in the game in week 1 and looked really good and led a touchdown drive.
That's what he does.
On a total side note, I got to interview him when I was doing the sidelines for radio this year at the spring game. And when you work in sports, the one thing when you do that, you get to be around players and teams so much that the feeling as a fan on the outsider you have about, oh my gosh, that's so-and-so, it kind of goes away a little bit because you really realize they're just people. And it's great to interact with them as normal people on a day-to-day basis. But I tell you, I haven't gotten the butterflies in my stomach the way I did when I got to interview Tyrod. Like, that guy, when I was a kid and I grew up a Hokie, my dad played soccer here at Tech in the 80s. Like, coming to Tech games was something I was lucky enough to get to do. Tyrod was my favorite player, and he could not have been any nicer. He could have been any cooler. And I got to ask him on air. I knew I would regret this, and I was cutting off parts of the spring game, like play was going on. But I had to ask him about the miracle in Blacksburg and the smile on his face when I brought it up. And we were standing in the corner and he was pointing out the play. Like, you can see what that play still means to him to this day. Anyways, that will forever be one of my favorite sports moments of my life. It'll be forever one of my favorite calls of my life from both Bill Roth and Sean McDonough, which were both amazing. So anyways, I could go on and on about Tyrod, and so happy he got inducted into the Tech Hall of Fame this year.
Better call. Bill Roth's call of the Tyrod Taylor play that you were just talking about, or the time you got to sit in the box at a Flying Squirrels game for John Laser, and there was a, play of the year catch that was made that you just downplayed more than any play ever in the history of baseball play-by-play. Evan, what was a better call? Bill's ability to elevate, or your ability to bring that play to a point where everyone thought that was a fresh can of corn that the outfielder never moved for?
You know what's funny about that? That's like me as a broadcaster. I never get excited. I always bring the play down. What are you talking about? That's what I do. For reference, that was my first time ever on a mic doing play-by-play, and I thought, so my sister had won the state championship in softball, and the Squirrels were honoring them. And my mom had organized that opportunity, but during the run for her state championship, the whole reason I got into broadcasting, I actually started doing public address announcing. That was the first time I've got, now batting number 2, Paul Van Wagner. So that's what I thought I was doing when I went into I was 12 or 13. Yeah. And so it's a funny story. The first time I ever met him was on the broadcast, and Lace puts a headset on me, and I don't remember the moment, but he just kind of said, okay, here you go. And I think he thought I was a play-by-play broadcast. I'm not trying to throw my mom under the bus here. I know she's probably watching. So anyways, he tells the story about he went into the clubhouse. I think a left fielder made a diving catch, and he was like, hey, what's up with my call on that? You weren't excited. So anyways, it's a funny story because, guys, in my life, you know me, I get excited for big moments. That might have been the only time in my life I haven't actually gotten excited for a big moment. But seriously, you go back to that call, Paul, about Bill, and like one of the coolest parts of our jobs is to get excited. And that's why I love being the voice of a team so much, is because when you're on the air, you get to represent a fan base that's listening.
Right.
You get to know players and coaches on a personal level. I'm not getting excited. Yes, I'm excited. I'm a Hokie. I want them to win. But when Liz Kitley hits the buzzer beater against NC State, man, I'm fired up because I know how awesome Liz Kitley is, how hard she works. You know what I mean? Like, you get to, how lucky am I? I get to have that relationship and translate that to the broadcast. And so those exciting moments, like, you got to be in check. You don't want to go nuts, but man, that's what it's all about, getting those opportunities, like, make the most of those moments. And so I've learned from the best, and I hope I get to have more big moments like that this year that I get to call for Tech fans.
See, Evan, I think that's what makes you good, though, is you're genuine. Like, you can keep it, like, in control, but you're genuine, and that comes through, and people appreciate genuine. That's why people love the drive so much, because it was more like, everyone, just a bunch of friends hanging out. And that's what I tell Paul all the time. People appreciate genuine more than they appreciate, most anything. If they can really see that and feel that, and they actually know that you as a person, like, they see your excitement, they get to know you, that means something to them. And Evan, you do a really good job with that.
Well, I that means a lot. I sincerely appreciate you saying that, because if there's one thing about me, I care so much. I care so much about the team. I care so much about the fans, and I care so much about the obligation that I have. It's a big deal, and broadcasters are replaceable, and no one is it can be taken from you at any point, and you got to deliver every time you come on the headset, and every time you listen, you care about for people tuning in. I want them to know how much I care, but I want them to feel like there's positivity. Like, I don't believe in broadcasters who tune in and like, oh, we're down 25, the game's over. No, like, tell me about how they can salvage something from this. Like, look at it from a glass half full perspective and not a glass half empty. If I'm not having a good time or trying to find the optimism, and I'm also not trying to be the person who's trying to sell you. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say we're down 30, it's peaches and cream, but there needs to be a reason to listen and optimism, because if I don't have that, you don't have that as a listener.
Right.
And I think that's so important. And then for big moments, like again, I'm not advocating to go nuts, but when Liz Kitley hits a buzzer beater against NC State in a sold out crowd at home, or we beat Ohio State to go to the Final Four, my emotion should match not just what's happening in the game, but also what the fans are feeling in that moment. And I take that responsibility so incredibly seriously.
Yes, because you're kind of like an extension of the fans in a lot of ways, because you are one of us. And that's another facet to that, and that's why I think what you do is so powerful and resonates with so many people.
What will you be more excited about? Looking back on that call of Liz Kitley and the buzzer beater, or looking ahead to the day when Kelly Hughes is inducted into the Virginia Tech Soccer Hall of Fame? What one will you be more excited for, Evan? And if you could, like, have you begun preparing the speech? Because I'm assuming that you will introduce Kelly when he goes up to give his thank you speech to, me and the rest of the Drive family who advocated for him over the course of the better part of 6 years. What does that look like? Have you played that scenario through in your head multiple times? And I guess how many times would be a more appropriate question?
I think the more appropriate question is, how many times has he played that out in his head over the years? No.
He belongs in the Hall of Fame, Evan. You know it.
My dad played here from 81 to 85. His claim to fame is that this is actually the 40-year anniversary of Tech men's soccer winning the 1984 Metro Conference Championship, which
was a legendary team, Evan.
It was, Jeremy. I know you loved. I mean, we all loved that team, and
neither of you were even born then. But whatever.
So
I'm immortal. I'm forever.
I will tell you funny. First of all, my dad is, as much as I love him, he's not a Tech Hall of Famer, but he was, get this, Paul, he was the first soccer player, men's soccer player, to be inducted into his high school's Hall of Fame back in 2014.
Nice.
Which was really cool. And then when he got here to Tech, I think he's tied for 5th all-time in single season assists. Like, he is in the record book.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying, Evan. That's what I'm saying. Like, Kelly deserves
so you're saying
honor.
You're saying Kelly Hughes deserves to go in with Tyrod and Dwayne Brown and all those guys, you know.
I didn't say that, but you just did, and right. I agree with you.
Yes. We have it on record. Evan Hughes is advocating for Kelly Hughes to be in the Virginia Tech Hall of Fame.
Yeah. No, I am. Oh my God.
I know this is your Nickelback. This is the one thing that Paul prods you on that actually gets to you.
Kelly Hughes is a national, a Virginia Tech treasure, and Virginia Tech needs to honor him in such a way that he gets what he has earned and what he deserves. This man has done more for Virginia Tech soccer in the early 80s than any other person in the history of Virginia Tech soccer. And the fact that he's not in the Virginia Tech Hall of Fame is a travesty. And every one of you know that I'm correct.
Well, all right. I've got many thoughts on this, but quickly. So we were having technical difficulties earlier. My computer was messing up, and I had to go to my iPhone. I'm on 3%. Can I go grab my charger real quick?
Absolutely.
Let me go get my charger.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm getting my Kelly Hughes is texting right now. I've got thoughts. give me a 30-second timeout. Hang on.
Jeremy and I will discuss amongst ourselves about what does Chris Arnold say? Leave the ACC and bring back the Metro. I mean, that doesn't sound like a terrible idea.
Evan's not on. Does that mean we can curse?
Ooh.
No, I won't do that.
Wait, hold on. Lynn Hughes. Kelly is listening and cracking up. Lynn, Kelly, I mean, son of a gun. Kelly is an icon. Like, if I'm honored to know the entire Hughes family, but like if I'm putting them in order of like Kelly, Lynn, Jamie, Evan, in that order. Like, I'm sorry. It's not a dig at Evan, who's now sideways. But like, you know,
nice.
You just like Kelly Hughes.
Oh my God. All right. Hang on. Let me try and
He's a hero. He's a hero to America, for crying out loud.
So time out. Is this camera angle okay? Is this good if I put it like that?
Good. You look good, baby.
Okay. Couple things. Let me pull up my computer. He just texted me, quote, "I love Paul" with 2 exclamation points. So he is watching.
Really, no love for Jeremy? Paul, whatever, Kelly. I don't want you in the Hall of Fame now. I don't want you in the Hall. You're lucky this is a PG episode. Yeah. You're so lucky this is a PG episode.
So he said, "I love Paul," and then he said, "Preach it." My mom is commenting in here, "You may make me become a Michigan fan with all the love you're giving us," because my mom went to Michigan State. Good heaven. Here's what. Oh my gosh. Here's what I will say. 2 things. Number one, on a serious note. One of the coolest people in the history of Virginia Tech athletics is a gentleman by the name of Jerry Cheney. And Jerry Cheney was the coach of Tech men's soccer from 1975 to 2002. He's the all-time winningest coach in soccer and wrestling history. At one point, he coached soccer in the fall, wrestling in the winter, and golf in the spring. He still works at Virginia Tech to this day in facility. He is an incredible human. And it's been cool for me to get to know him after he coached my dad over the years. So anyways, I know you were being funny, but he is the most influential person in the history of Tech soccer. Secondly, so speaking of Coach Cheney, I just did a wardrobe change, by the way, as I got the charger, and I did that.
I noticed that. I was like,
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a different outfit.
Yeah, the first time in the history of the podcast, someone's changed it. And the reason I did that, so in April of this year, before I went on the air for a baseball broadcast, Coach Cheney came into my radio booth, and he calls me Kelly, even though he knows my name's Evan. "Oh, Kelly, what's going on?" I mean, he calls me my dad's name. He goes, "I got something for you." He brought me the 1984 Virginia Tech Metro Championship.
That's awesome.
And if you guys could see, there's some stains on the bottom of this. It's seen better days. But it is a vintage piece, the 40-year anniversary. So, anyways, I thought it would be fitting to bring, while he will not be a Hall of Famer, that the Metro. Okay, here's a funny story for you. So the Metro tournament, they played in Louisville, I think it was at this, and the Metro at the time had Florida State in it. It had Louisville. It had Cincinnati. Like, it was a good conference, right? I think the Metro eventually became like the Big East. So there was, anyways. So at the time, there's no NCAA tournament for men's soccer. They go to the Metro Tournament Championship tournament, and they overcome this big deficit in game number 1 to come back and win. They end up going to the championship, and over the summer, the sports information director for men's soccer is one of my best friends, Will Copeland, who I was in his wedding last year. He's one of my great friends. They're trying to do a story on the '84 team to come, to celebrate 40 years. And they found the box score. Obviously, there's no video from it. They found the box scores of the tournament. And we find out that in the 89th minute, my dad assisted the game-tying goal that sent it to overtime, to which they eventually won, I think, on penalty kicks. So I pick up the phone and call him. I'm like, Dad, did you know that I was like, Dad, you never told me that you assisted the game-tying goal in the championship. He goes, I have no recollection of that. I do not remember that in this. I was like, how do you not remember that?
Adrenaline, that's why.
I mean, how do you not remember that? I mean, it's a great moment.
Back then, Evan, like, we were showing up to games maybe a little inebriated. It wasn't like it is now. Like, that's it's possible.
I have had.
Yeah, this was back in the day. They were probably ripping cigs on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I do know
Don't
this.
shake me out. I need a dart.
Give me a dart.
I'm sure there are stories. The one thing I do know, I guess when they would travel on the road, those sleeper buses, there would only be like a couple beds. And the way they would determine who got the beds was whoever could go the farthest in Pac-Man.
That's actually a really good system.
That's actually fair.
Wait, where did the other people sleep?
I don't know. I guess it's just in the chair, or in the seats on the bus.
Lynn, tell us where the other people slept. I need to know this. So there are only a few beds, and everyone else is just like, all right, a few people get these beds. And it's not like they're pulling up to a hotel and being like, these sleeper beds are the best beds. You don't even want the hotel. You want these. Right. I know that's not true. So, I need to know what happened to the other people.
I want to know, too. So he's actually, if you need a fun fact, I didn't mean to talk about my dad for 10 minutes, but he's really good at Pac-Man. It's been a while since I've seen him do it.
Okay.
He doesn't like video games all that much. I still get judged why I play my PlayStation by my parents, which is fine. But they are. He's really good at Pac-Man. He really is.
Anywhere they could. We had our athletes sleeping just wherever, and only a few people got the beds.
Yeah, that was 84.
We've come a long way.
So, Evan, we do need to switch gears because we've only got about 8 more minutes before we have to get out of here. We like to make way for our friends at Boundary Corner here at 9 o'clock, but I do want to talk a little bit about what your mom and dad do. They have maybe arguably one or two of the coolest jobs in the world. They run Comfort Zone camps. And I guess for those that don't know, can you give us a Cliff Notes version? What exactly is Comfort Zone camps?
I appreciate you bringing it up, Paul. You've always been so good about doing that. Anytime I can tell people about it, I appreciate that. Comfort Zone Camp is one of the nation's largest bereavement camps for kids who have lost a mom, dad, brother, or sister, primary caregiver, or a close friend. We've been serving children since 1999 and have served almost 25,000 children in that time span. We're headquartered in Richmond, but we have satellite camps in regions all over the country, from North Carolina to New Jersey to Massachusetts, California. We do camps in Florida. We've done camps in this summer in Utah. We've done camps in Las Vegas. We go all over. And all camps are free of charge to children ages 7 to 17. They're held year-round from a Friday afternoon to a Sunday afternoon. And The biggest thing is this: when you hear a camp like that, you might think it's death camp. But these kids, for the first time for a lot of them in their lives, they come to a place and they're meeting other kids their age who have gone through something similar to themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of times in their day-to-day at school and other activities, they're labeled as the kids that had a death in their life. And so they come to this endless fun camp for 3 days. And it's very up tempo, like what you would expect from a summer camp type fun, from bonfire and s'mores, free time, icebreakers, all of what you think camp is about. But we also mix in what we call healing circles, and those are led by grief therapists, and we have 4 of them throughout the weekend. And these kids in these small group settings get a chance to share their story, because we're big believers. Every time you share your story, you heal. And they learn coping skills throughout the weekend. One of my favorite things about camp is that a grief therapist said 1 weekend at camp is good for 6 to 9 months of therapy for a kid.
Oh, wow.
And so the other part is that every kid, we have about 60 or so at every camp. Every camper is matched with an adult volunteer that we call a big buddy. You do not have to have a loss to volunteer. All ages from 18 years old to however, you go through a training once, and then you are trained for life. And we match you based off of similar interests. So you are dedicated to that one kid throughout the weekend. And it's one of the most powerful things to see bigs and littles, their evolution throughout the weekend. A lot of them come back and request each other. And then about 25% of our volunteer base right now are former campers that are now turned adult volunteers in big buddy roles.
Wow, that's cool.
So I could go on and on about it. I appreciate you bringing that up. And, it's my, I think it's our family's passion project. My mom's the founder and CEO. My dad's her, right-hand person. We've got about a staff of about 25 people, and they do amazing work. It puts into perspective, that there's a lot other things going on in the world compared to what we're going through, what these kids are going through in their day-to-day lives.
That is very cool.
Now, I knew you did the camps, and I knew a little bit about it. I didn't know it was all that. The Hughes family, every single time I talk to any of you all just get more awesome. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, Evan.
That is true. It's unfair.
It's hard to beat the Counts family and what they do for so many people in Southwest Virginia and really nationwide with all that you're doing from a legal standpoint. But we're a close second, Jeremy. Okay, we are a close second to you. Toast to the Counts. Okay, with my Diet Coke.
See, here's the problem. Though. Here's the problem. For everything good that the entire Counts family does, they have this anchor named Jeremy that just kind of weighs them down, right? Like you all don't.
That's what I do.
That. Like top to bottom, the Hughes family roster is A+ individuals. Like
That's true.
Mr. and Mrs. Counts are amazing. The in-laws are.
They drag me along.
Awesome.
I'm okay with it.
And then there's Jeremy, just kind of taking pictures with Scott Stapp in the pharmacy, and
God.
It's just like I don't understand how this family, Evan, this family prevails in spite of Jeremy, not because of Jeremy. Your family prevails because all of you are pulling in the exact same direction. You all are a prime example of what America is all about. God bless you.
Well, that's very kind of you both. I throw a flag on that. Jeremy is the opposite of the anchor. And, thank goodness
I'm
for
with you,
what
Evan. I drag them along. You know what they told me my whole life? They were like, Jeremy, you know what? Drinking's bad. You know what, Jeremy? Your mouth's going to always get you in trouble. Actually, no. My mom always told me that I should always speak up because I'm smarter than everyone else. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom, for filling my head full of this nonsense. But they gave me like this weird kind of confidence, and it led to me being like having a big mouth. And it's actually hilarious because most of the things they told me not to do, I'm now getting like flown all over the place to do, like get drunk on camera and curse a lot.
You know what's cool, and one thing I have learned through this is not everyone is lucky to have one parent or two parents in their life.
Yeah.
Not everyone's lucky to have it for an extended period of time. You never know when the last time you're going to be with them, or some don't have their parents in their life at all, period. But for those of us that do, A, it's a blessing, and B, how cool is it that not every person can say their parents allow for their kids to be who they truly are. And so for you, on a real note, Jeremy, like, thank God your parents did, because you are who you are, and you're not afraid to be who you are. And Paul, you're the same way. And I can call ranting to my parents today and not get yelled at about how aggravating the New York Jets make me and go on a 30-minute rant to my dad in the middle of the workday. I can do that. I mean, I can, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
It's support and it's love. And that's the one thing I've tried to do the most, like, as a dad. Yeah. It really is. And Emily, she is fantastic with all that, because she's incredibly supportive of, like, me and the things I'm doing. She's incredibly supportive of our kid. Everything she does is full of love, full of wonder. Like, it's awesome. And I try to be that because of my parents and because of parents like yours. You just have a wonderful family, and I'm grateful to know you all.
Now, Evan, I will ask you this question. How does it feel knowing that you are not Lynn's favorite? And I'm basing that off of the fact that her profile picture
is my sister.
Her sister Jamie. And you got kicked out of the house that you were living in with Drew so that Jamie could have the house after your senior year. I'm just curious, like, how do you cope? Do you want to come to our house? Do you want to join us for Thanksgiving? We would love to have you.
Paul, you're actually not the first. You're not the first person to offer me that. That was a really touchy subject about getting kicked out of the house. Hey, how much time do we have?
How much do you want?
We got another minute. It's okay. Boundary Corner, they come on a little late sometimes.
Quickly, I have got to tell this story. I got to do it in a nutshell real quick. I lived with one of my best friends my senior year. I listen to The Drive everywhere I go. One day we're going to golf. He's a non-broadcasting major. And I said, Drew, you got to check out this show. They are amazing. This is Paul. Drew starts listening, this is the greatest thing ever. Starts listening to the show and starts texting into Paul his thoughts on the show, to which he always would say he's in the car. Well, then Paul starts calling him Drew in the car, which all of my family, which all of us call him Drew in the car. He became so close with Paul that Paul hired him to be a producer for The Drive without ever having any broadcasting experience. So anyway, I could go on, but that is forever will be one of my favorite Paul Van Wagner stories. Thank you for creating the legend Drew in his car.
Yeah, well, thank you for
I have a similar story where I was driving back from Roanoke on the back roads, and I was like, I gotta put The Drive on. And Emily was like, wait, is that show you listen to? This is before Emily really knew Paul. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna listen to it. We were listening to it for a while, and I'm just going on, and I'm just laughing. And Emily was just like, his voice is really annoying.
No. And I could go on.
It's got to be a female thing, because Bridget tells me the same thing. She's constantly like, your voice is annoying me.
I don't get it. You've got a good radio voice.
He really does. Don't ever. My dad actually thinks, Paul, you have the best radio voice of anyone he's met. Hand to a Bible. He has told me that before. I'm not just saying that.
Evan, I love you. You are second to only one. You are second to only one. Andrew Alex. Andrew Alex has the best radio voice I've ever. What are you talking about? What are you doing? When I first heard his voice, like after I'd met him, I thought it was fake for a second. I thought Andrew was putting us on.
He does have. I don't want to. The Mets are going to win, Paul. They're going to win. I can't quite do it, but it's got a little raspiness to it.
It does.
They're going to win, Paul.
It does. Igor,
it's so good.
What in the world? Come here. Evan, last question for you before we leave. You are locked in Jeremy's basement with Tim Thomas. And in order to get out of the basement, you have to murder Tim Thomas. What is the method
that you would
use to kill Tim Thomas so that you can escape from Jeremy's dungeon basement?
Two things. Number one, I would never do that. Number two, I would love to come. First of all, why would we ever want to leave Jeremy's basement? I'm sure that's a cool place where a lot of.
This is not the PG version of the show. Is not the time to ask that question, Evan. You have to come back next week and ask that question. You do not want that answer. We cannot give that answer on this version of the show.
Oh, okay. I had a feeling Jeremy has like a cool man cave or something down there. With like.
I am down here. It's actually now turned into more of a studio than it was. I have a lot of my music equipment down here, and now it's turned into content creation and podcast studio. It's pretty wild.
There are also some leather straps and like a chainsaw down there. I'm not really sure like why it's weird. Like you walk in and you're like, oh, this is cool. And then you kind of look in the corner and you're like, ew. And then
there
you kind of
things.
Like, you can't unsee it. Like that's
a drum kit. I've actually got a bunch of creepy pictures up that like we found one at a garage sale that was like an estate sale, and it was this two old couple, and I was like, they're selling off their picture. I was like, if I were that way, I would hope that at some point someone pick up my picture and put it up in their house. So I grabbed it because I didn't want these people to be forgotten. And then another one was this painting that this older lady gave Griff as a present, and it's real creepy.
Jeremy,
can you
click on
I'll show y'all next time.
The last comment from Trey Lyle, please. Can you put that up there so I can share this story?
10 out of 10.
No, the one after that. There we go. So
you called the cops on Trey?
So Trey comments, for those that listen to this on a podcast, Trey comments that Paul called the cops on me this week. That's not 100% accurate. So for my new job, sometimes I get the opportunity to go to Lynchburg. And whenever I get the opportunity to go to Lynchburg, I make it a point that the day before I reach out to Trey Lyle, the protege of the drive, and I say to him, hey, let's grab lunch. Like I'll schedule my appointment for 11. I'll be done around noon. We grab lunch. We'll get to see each other for, half hour or so. And then we'll go our separate ways. And we just kind of get to hang out for a little while. And I really enjoy doing that with Trey. It's one of those things. He's like the little brother that I used to beat up. And now it's like, oh, like he's starting to grow. So I love Trey Lyle. So we're sitting in Chipotle in Lynchburg on Monday afternoon, and two Lynchburg police officers come walking through the door. Now they're just there to get lunch, right? Trey doesn't see them. He has his back to the door. I see them walk in, and as they hit the door, I say, fellas, he's right here. He's here. Go ahead. And of course, Trey turns around and there's two Lynchburg cops standing there looking at him. And so, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I also called Trey's radio station in Kansas the first week that he was there and claimed to be his parole officer.
I remember that.
And
remember that.
It's how I show love. Here's the deal. I can pick on Trey all I want, but if anybody else picks on Trey, I am going to, this is the PG version, I am going to stomp your little poopy hole. So it's one of those things.
I'm proud of you. Good job, Paul. Good job.
Yeah.
Butthole. Stinky finger.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes.
All right,
anyway, Evan, are you going to smother Tim Thomas? How are you getting out of Jeremy's bait? You haven't answered the question.
I'm going to give you that. Listen, I'm not doing anything to harm Tim Thomas. So looks like the two of us are hanging out in Jeremy's basement for a long time. And
we won't, because Tim will kill you. He'll kill you in a split second to get out of my basement.
I guarantee
Tim is
you.
terrified.
It's not you, it's him, and he will. Yeah.
Hey, first of all,
it's okay. I won't let him.
I'm glad that Tim's okay. I'm glad that Trey is okay. More importantly,
Trey's doing awesome. Yes.
No, seriously, I'm just glad, the Chipotle didn't become a scene.
Evan? Should we go ahead and together confess to Trey? Should we do that now? Is this the time? Because I've denied from day one. Is it time that we fess up?
There it is. No, listen. One of the regrettable.
Do we own this together?
He just made. I think he just put it in the comments. I think Jeremy just put it on the screen. He will use it to. Listen. I felt horrible when. Yeah, we don't need to relive this story. Let Trey be. That's my guy. Evan is the reason I have my. Yeah, Trey. I still feel guilty about that. All right. Listen. How much, Jeremy? Do we have to? I don't want to.
We do.
Dude, go for it. Go for it.
I want to tell the story. I listen. Okay. So in high school, I've known Trey for almost a decade now. And first of all, Trey, I love you, buddy. I really do. And sometimes friends make mistakes. I made a big mistake. I'm going to be totally honest and transparent. So Trey, and we were both interns at TV 99 together. And in Hanover County, Virginia, the rivalry game is my high school Patrick Henry against his high school Mechanicsville. They play in the Tomato Bowl. It's been going on for over 60 years. And Hanover County is known for tomatoes. That's the reason why. And our television station had a tomato costume. And you would go and do hits, Jeremy, at the game. And Trey was the best. I mean, he got into full character. He was awesome. He was
I've seen the video.
really good.
Thanks to you, Evan.
Yeah. So this was the fall of 2018, and I'm in the press box at a Tech football game. We get to halftime. I've never met Paul really before. He's sitting by himself, and I decide I'm going to go join him. Like, I really want to get to know Paul. And we start talking for 10 minutes or so.
He was by himself in the press box?
Well, for food. I'm sure not. At that moment, Paul, you were, for whatever, in the food room.
Oddly enough, the real journalist didn't like to be around me.
See, I just imagine you were always hanging out with Andy Bitter.
No, Andy. So like,
I love Andy. That's no slide on Andy.
I don't mean this in a negative way, but Andy Bitter, David Cunningham, David Teal, Mike Barber, like when you think of journalists, right? Like real legitimate journalists, right? They didn't. I don't even know how it happened. At one point, like, I was so ostracized that they actually put me in the section of the press box where the scouts sit, which was cool as hell for me because I started talking to the scouts about, like, so who you guys checking out? Can this dude really play at the next level? Like, I had a full-on conversation with the it was the Philadelphia Eagles scout about whether or not what is his name now? He played for Pitt. He's with the Steelers, or he was with the Steelers. Kenny Pickett could play at the next level. Like, I legitimately had a full-on, and I just asked the question and just let this dude talk and sat back and just listened, absorbed everything that he said. So, like, I don't know why they stuck me in that area, but it was like the greatest thing ever. Like, I didn't have to be quiet. I could just be myself and engage with these guys. But yeah, no, the real journalists, even when they ate, they didn't really want anything to do with me. And that's cool. Like, I get it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. It's all good.
So anyways, I go up, I introduce myself to Paul, super friendly. The first conversation I've ever really had with them. It's going on for about 20 minutes. And we start talking about Trey, who's the co-host of The Drive. Stop. Don't do it. He sent this to me. He sent it to me.
Trey sent it.
Yeah, this was from
Okay, good. Because I want to
see Trey's going to own it.
So Trey, and it was great. And so we start talking about Trey, and I start talking about one of my first times I ever did an on-air segment, and one of the first times I ever worked with Trey. I didn't work with Trey, but I was in the same video. Anyways, he recorded video, and then I did something. The episode we were on was all spliced together from different parts, if that makes sense. And I said, like, have you seen Trey in this video from TV 99, which was a massive mistake that I regret on
Why is that a mistake? It's
because
hilarious. Trey thinks it's funny.
Well, at the time he didn't, and I felt really bad, and I hope that we can laugh about it. So I show Paul the video of Trey in the tomato costume, and I remember I show it to him. I mean, vividly. I mean, Paul's kind of like looking down at the phone like this. He watches. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't say that's awesome. He looks up at me like this, and he goes, "I'm gonna need you to email this to me right now." And I remember thinking, dear heavens, I am in so much trouble with Trey. So this was on Saturday. He didn't even laugh. Paul, like, I thought he was, that's cool. Like, I didn't fully understand. And at this time, I wasn't really listening to The Drive yet because I was a sophomore.
You didn't know yet.
So I listened to the show on Monday, and Paul, We've got Trey, the dancing tomato Lyle, in the other studio taking your calls at 866-961-1430. Hello, Trey. How's that red tomato? I mean, he went full throttle. And I think it caught Trey off guard. And I remember, here's what, what made me feel so bad? Trey texted me after the show at like 6:05, and he said something along the lines of, "How could you?" or "I know it was you." And I felt horrible. I felt awful. So I want the record on this day publicly. I want to issue a public apology to my dear friend Trey Lyle for how that happened. That was not my intent to give Paul. I didn't realize ammunition or him calling him a tomato was going to happen. I take full blame for that, and I am so sorry, Trey, that happened. Genuinely sorry.
Trey was betrayed, according to Marnie. Yeah. You know what? He forgives you. Trey, you know what your biggest mistake was? You let him know that it got to you. That's the biggest mistake you ever had. And because of that mistake, you have Evan Hughes here a decade later, now sad over the fact that he made you sad because you were being a little emotional instead of just owning it, because you should have owned it, because that was a hilarious video, and you have to own those things because they're funny.
Do you know, like when you're friends with people, typically if you say something that they don't agree with, you get, people roast you a little bit in a group chat, right? But when you're friends with people that are in media, like, do you know how small I felt when I listened to Paul go on public radio that can reach thousands of people and start calling him the dancing tomato? Like, do you know how awful I felt? This wasn't a group chat with 5 college buddies. This was Blacksburg. This was an ESPN affiliated show. I felt, and I don't think, Paul, I don't think you told him about it. I think you went, if I remember correctly, you just went on the show live and started calling him that. And I had to turn it off. I remember I went to Elrod's that night. I remember texting Trey. Like, I think I even, like, I felt, Trey, I was mostly okay with it at the time. It just shocked me. I know. I'm sure it did. So anyways.
Evan Hughes, terrible human being.
Issue an apology, and my apology is to both Trey and Evan. I did take advantage of Evan. Evan felt like he was doing something fun, and not knowing me like he knows me now, right? Like, that was something that, like, you gave me the greatest gift you could have given me at that moment with Trey. Because I had spent the first probably 6 months of our on-air time trying to come up with something to call Trey that was funny and entertaining. And I mean, at one point I was calling him Trey VN. I called him Ashtray for a while, just trying to get something going. And the tomato just at the perfect time just dropped into my lap, and it bonded Trey and I long term more. So yes, I am a monster, Trey. You are correct. That is fair and accurate. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to tell you guys. Okay, and this is the God's honest truth. I can do this to Trey, but if anybody else does it, I will beat you to a pulp. Because Trey's my boy.
You dance as a tomato. Come at me, Paul.
I will. And Trey, again, you said I let him get to me. The problem is, here's why I feel so bad. It wasn't like Paul knew about this or confronted me. Like, I was trying to show him our relationship, how we'd worked together, and we were in the Tomato Bowl recap. And again, I just, like, it's a moment I will never forget. Him just looking up. I'm going to need you to email this to me right now. It was stone cold. It was at that moment the alarm bell went off. Like, and I remember trying to backpedal, like, Paul, please don't do it. And I think, Paul, I even said, don't do it. And you're like, he'll never know. And I was like, he will absolutely. I am the only person in Southwest Virginia
that was the first time you've ever got that look, that Paul look, where it's just like,
Jeremy, it was straight.
The first time publicly that I've ever admitted that you conspired with me. I held that Like Trey came to me and he's like, Evan Hughes did this. And I'm like, nope. I said, in fact, I think I even told him, I'm not even really sure I know who Evan Hughes is, Trey. Like I took it to a very extreme of I was going to protect you at all costs.
I didn't think it was all that.
Paul,
no, go ahead, Evan.
Paul, I'm sorry. How should I have reacted when he texted me 5 minutes after that Monday show saying, you did this, or how could you? I genuinely think it was like do you, I actually think, if I can find this message, I think it was something along the lines of like, do you know how much he will use this against me? Like, I felt, so anyways, Trey, I'm glad we can laugh about it now. You know you're my guy. I think to this day that was the only time I've ever seen Paul so serious. Like, and he made me email. I remember trying to backpedal and squirm my way out of that, and you were like, my email is paul@espnblacksburg.com. I need this right. Like, and then you know what? Here's what I remember too. Not only did Paul call him this on the air, he tweeted out at 4 o'clock that day the GIF. He turned it into a video and tweeted it. I mean, oh my God! I did. Look at you. You're so proud of yourself. You are so, come on. Gosh. Oh, my God.
That and the drug test with Andrew and Nathan are two of my all-time greatest achievements while I was on the drive. It was that those two moments are moments that, like, I look back on and I'm like, that was good. That was good. Like, we did a lot of good stuff, but me acting like on my own or like doing something like just to put, like, I come at Jeremy with the Nickelback and the Creed stuff. That's not me on my own. Like, I had outside help for that. So it's a moment that I will honestly tell you that I'm proud of. And I think that long term, it bonded Trey and I together. And again, I make trips to Lynchburg just to have lunch with him. So
yes. Well, I love that. Again, that moment. And then I think the moment, I don't want to get in trouble here, but you guys know the story about when I figured out about our amazing traffic reports. Okay,
hold on. Let me take over right here. Andrew comes running into the studio on a Monday afternoon. He's like, and his eyes are like saucers. He's like, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, and like immediately I'm like, holy shit, what happened? He's like, Evan thinks the chopper is real. And I'm like, what? And he goes, Evan Hughes? I'm like, yeah. He goes, he thinks we actually own a helicopter. And I'm like, what? And he proceeds to tell me about how Evan, he, and Nathan and Tina are sitting at PK's. Or was it not PK's?
I don't want to spoil the story, but no, it was Sharky's. I had just finished golf with Drew. We were having happy hours. We had spinach and artichoke dip. It was, and here's the real quick. I'll let you finish the story. I'm sitting with Drew on the back patio. I had just introduced him to the drive earlier in the day, and I kept selling Drew on, dude, you know what the coolest part of this show is? They have a sponsored segment with Tina Merritt, who goes, I said, Drew, she goes over to the Blacksburg airport every day, gets in a helicopter, and just flies around Main Street and tells us about traffic. Keep in mind, I am 21 years old. I am consuming an adult beverage. And I am
a broadcast major.
I have listened to the show for 3 years. So anyways, here's the funny part real quick, Paul. So I look at Drew and it's 5:50. And I said, Drew, guess what? You're going to see two people walking shoulder to shoulder next to each other at about 5:57 from that brick building, going right into either Sharky's, the Cellar, or another downtown Blacksburg establishment. This is a Friday. He's like, well, doesn't the show end at 6? I'm like, trust me. They get out of there right before the show ends. And sure enough, at 5:53, I'll never forget, here comes Nathan Brennan and Andrew Alex in lockstep with each other, just ready to have a night on the town. And I flagged him. I'm like, guys, come on. I said, guys, I want y'all to meet one of my best friends, Drew Clauber. He's been listening to the show today. Like, he really enjoyed it. And I said, guys, I said, Andrew and Nathan, tell Drew about the helicopter. And they kind of look at each other like, oh, yeah, like, we've got this segment. Tina, she does it. I said, no, like, guys, like, how sick is it that ESPN Blacksburg in, Southwest Virginia has a sponsored segment with a helicopter? And
oh my God.
they look at each other. And I'll never forget, Andrew looks at Nathan and goes, should we tell him? Kind of in the raspy voice. And I'm like, tell me what?
Evan.
And they're like, the chopper's fake. And I have not been more distraught and more shocked than when I found out that Santa was not real. I could not. And Drew's looking at me like, wait a minute, you thought that there was I never for a second thought that was fake. For 3 years of listening to The Drive, never thought it was fake.
Evan. Okay, you told on yourself because the way Andrew and Nathan tell it, they didn't tell it in that much detail. They just said Evan thought it was real. They did not. No. They did not give it away like that.
I got the whole detailed story. Like what Evan is telling me is exactly what Andrew told me, and I was like, "Well, did you tell him?" And Andrew was like, "Yeah, we felt like we had to." And I started laughing, and I said, "Well, what was his reaction?" And he was like, "He's really upset." And I'm like, he's mad at us, and he's like, "No, he's just upset that it's not real. It's like we ruined Christmas for him." I was like,
"No, I will tell you, Evan, you were the inspiration for me to play my greatest joke I've ever played on it. It's a practical joke. Was you believing the chopper was
oh
real.
My God, yeah.
Manit and Lob, Liam O'Brien and Manit. Yes, in the group chat, mother of God, they believed the chopper was real. When I was talking about, I'm going up in the chopper doing this. Well,
Jeremy, do you
I
know
was just talking in group chat because I had to cover for Tina.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going up in the chopper. And they're like, oh, man, Jeremy, can we come with you? And I went, what? And then I went, Jeremy, don't say a word. Just go with this. And I was like, yeah, come to Blacksburg Airport. We're going to go up in the chopper. And so they started getting excited. They started going on. We're just like, all right, Jeremy, we're coming. Don't leave without us. We're coming. And so they made this entire event where they scrambled to get together. They'd been drinking, clearly. And they were scrambling to get together. They go to Blacksburg Airport. And the entire time I'm encouraging them, I'm like, yes, they go to Blacksburg Airport. I'm encouraging them. I'm in group chat, and I'm just full on, you all come on, like we're waiting for you. And they're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so they get there, and they're having Blacksburg Airport check the radar for a chopper. They're like, there's no chopper in the area. And they just keep going on. And they refuse to think that there wasn't an actual chopper until I just straight up told them there's not a chopper.
Part of me really wants to defend myself. Part of me just wants to admit how stupid and naive I was for 3 years to believe it. But I will say this. It sounds so legit. And here's the other thing. I love watching like high-speed chases. I think it's really fun, actually. Obviously, you want everyone to be safe, but I do enjoy it. And think about
Evan
the
Hughes,
OJ
on
chase.
Record, encouraging high-speed chases.
That's right.
Drives fast. It amuses him.
All right. Did any of you guys watch?
Evan likes it.
Did you guys watch the OJ documentaries, or do you remember the high-speed chase? Okay,
I remember the 45-mile-an-hour chase. Yes.
Yes, the slow speed chase. If you go back and watch the footage of the helicopters, okay, and you think about the people with the microphone that are on air in a chopper, it sounds just like Tina in the chopper. That's part of the reasoning that I thought it was legit, because, like, okay, this makes I could picture Tina with a headset on, microphone in front. Somebody is it's sponsored. I'm thinking maybe True North Title actually pays part of the sponsorship deal to do this five. I mean, and again, looking back on it, it was stupid. I cannot believe I thought it for 3 years. But I think part of me really didn't fully, I guess, understand the true shtick of the drive until that moment, because thought,
Evan, I'm going to defend you. You're right. The first month I listened to the drive or so, I thought the chopper may have been real because they were going up with like that was before I knew Tina. That was before I knew anyone.
Right.
And I was like, okay, maybe they're up there as that's like the weather person and she just reports to like random people and that's just what she does. And she's got a good rapport with Paul. And then as it went on, I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I see.
So I have a fun story. Fast forward to a month ago when the hurricane blew through the New River Valley, right? My phone rings. And it is future town councilman Frank Merritt. And he says to me, he goes, do you have any idea what you've created? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're even talking about. So the answer to that is no. And he says, hang on. And he hands the phone to Tina. And she is cackling. She is laughing so hard. Like, she really can't even put a sentence together. She finally composes herself enough to tell me that local TV stations have been messaging her on Twitter, asking her if she can give them road reports of washed out areas in the New River Valley from the radio station's helicopter. A year after we've stopped the show, well, we've stopped my portion of the show, this happens. So you are not alone in being bamboozled. And I will end with this because we've gone way long here.
I know, we're just having a good time.
So radio, I'm not talking about radio what Evan does or what Bill Roth does or what Zach does. I'm talking about radio like what I did at ESPN Blacksburg. And I know that this is the PG version of this show, but I cannot say this any other way except to tell you we are all full of shit. Okay? And if you want to sit down with me and have a beer, I will ruin radio for you for the rest of your life if you want me to. I can tell you all of the things that shows do that are not real. I know they're not real just as soon as they start to do the bit. I know that they're not real. But it is across the industry. Those of us that do studio shows, Trey can do it too. Trey knows what I'm talking about. Those of us that do studio shows know what is real and what is not. And I think that the average listener out there would be shocked at how many things on like a 3-4 hour program are actually fake. Just completely like, I got an MP3 sent to me. This is the interview. I'm going to read my parts. I'm going to piece it together in production, and I'm going to run this bit at 7:45 tomorrow morning, right? More times than not, that is in fact the case. But so again, if you want me to ruin local radio for you, I will. I'll be happy to do it. I don't have a problem with that. But if you're probably,
I'll ruin it for you by just telling you about the hosts.
Yeah, well, there you go. Evan, when does the basketball season tip off?
November 4th, doubleheader at Castle Coliseum. The women play UNC Wilmington, and the men play Delaware State.
Okay. And you will be doing the women's game on the Virginia Tech Sports Network, ESPN Blacksburg, locally, and then you will be doing the men's game on the TV side, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'm actually going to have a doubleheader that day. So for those that tune in on the TV stream, I will be calling that with Mac McCarthy, and yeah, really excited.
Love
ready
Mac. I love Mac.
But guys, this was so fun. Like, I'm so appreciative.
Yeah, dude.
You guys.
You're always welcome. Like, you've got the permanent link now. Drop in whenever you want, even if it's in the middle of a normal show. But
now, just be careful, because we will not PG down the normal show.
We will not PG that down.
I know. So I was supposed to come on after the Miami game. I think we made the right call on bumping this a couple weeks.
We did.
That was. I'm glad that you guys had the pod that you needed to have for that one.
Yes, that was good.
But
I'm glad we got you now. Evan, you're always welcome to come on. Stick around for a few minutes of the audio upload so that I can mix it later.
Yep.
We'll have our after hours. Everyone, thanks for tuning in to Blacksburg on the Rocks. Yeah. It's still repeating.